Hey everybody, Miss Ladybug. So, continuing my synopsis of what 2016 was for me. Um, so, um, I think I got as far as I had come home from my retreat with my dog, and we'd had so much fun. And came out of the redwood forest to nasty texts from Mary and Danielle, the tenants, that continued for 24 hours, and I had to report it to the police. And it was quite abusive, and yeah, if they treated their other friends that way, they wouldn't have their other friends, that's for sure. But Mary's lost a few other people in her life where they've at least stepped way back because of her behavior, so I'm not the only one. So anyway, when it came time that they were to move, and I went through all of that, so Tuesday night, after staying in my trailer for 4 nights and almost 5 days, waiting for them to move, because I had not had any altercations at all. Every single interaction that I'd had with them, even when she was being really harsh and really verbally demeaning and bashing, I still always maintained a business, dignified behavior. And I would say, Mary, I don't appreciate you talking to me like this, and I'm going to go home and we can talk about this tomorrow. And then there were a number of times that I talked to her and said, you're treating me really poorly and I don't deserve this and I'm not going to tolerate it. And she'd, oh, I'm sorry, but you're just, it's just, that's just the way she was. She just had to dig at you all the time. And she was always justified. Even being nasty, she was justified. And anyway, so I had stayed in my trailer and it was 110 degrees. I had no way of leaving. I'd had to give my truck to my son because I couldn't pay him for coming to work on the farm because of the money Walt had been taking out of the account. I hadn't realized that. I just thought, we don't have any money. Every time I would hear what the balance was, I was like, we don't have any money. Well, I could have easily paid my son if Walt hadn't taken $1,600 out for miscellaneous things and never replacing it like he said he would, and taking a lot more out than he told me about. I mean, something was up. Something's up. Somebody has, there was 3 different accounts that he was transferring money to. Right there, to me, is a red flag. But I wanted to think the best of him because what he'd showed me was kindness and compassion and caring. But here we were now, and oh man, I was seeing a different side. This man was brutal. He was brutal. I was left with this old truck that I drove around to haul things. It didn't even have brakes when I first drove it, but no one had the, kindness to tell me that, as I learned going down the hill. Kind of like with the tractor. No one had told me it didn't have brakes. And I accidentally knocked it out of gear and went to use brakes, and there's no goddamn brakes. So I almost died. Literally, I was traveling down a hill in a 1939 Ford F9 tractor going at least 40 to 45 miles per hour. And there was a hairpin turn. And my only hope was making it over the culvert and going the slight incline, which I did. I jumped it. And I had a brush hog on the back, which came down, boom. And that's what stopped me. And you know what? I sat there and laughed my frickin' butt off because I had just truly faced death. And this was in late April. And, that was an exciting moment, to be very honest, because I was, wow, oh, that was fun. Oh, shit, I almost died. But I turned that tractor around, risking turning it over, and rode it down the hill and mowed. I did my job. And that's how I was there. I did my job. I did what I felt was the very next best thing every single day, as far as keeping things up and trying to make it better and clean it up and show respect to the people who'd worked there and lived there for 25 years. This couple that I became very knowledgeable of them, extremely knowledgeable. I went through all their belongings. So anyway, I sat and I waited for people to move out. That's what I was told, that they were going to be out on Sunday, but they weren't out on Sunday, and they weren't out on Monday. And then it looked like they were out on Tuesday, and I went down and I locked the gate. And I said, no one else is coming through unless I let them in. I'm going crazy up here on this hill. And Walt was not supportive of that at all. Here I am up there, and there's people, and I'm sick. I'm in detox and withdrawals, because I stopped taking my Xanax or Ativan on July 12th. So all my symptoms got worse. And people say, well, that wasn't very smart. No, it wasn't smart. I had no idea how it was going to go. I just knew that I had been working towards this, and just because some other crappy stuff was going on, I wasn't going to change everything for that. And so it was like, okay, I'm ready to be done. And so I did it. And it almost took me out. I mean, that night, Tuesday, after Mary had finally left and it looked like they were done, and I went down and locked the gate, and the growers were all out and no one was on the property, and I was finally for one moment going, oh my God, I can breathe. And then I start getting harassed from Walt that, oh, I can't do that. And I'm like, why not? I'm the one who lives here full-time, year-round. I was the property manager. I'm the caretaker still. And I was supposed to be the person that you loved. And you're not going to support me in this. And so, no, he had the police come. And they cut the lock. And they let the growers in. And they came up. And I was incensed. I was in my detox, and I felt very afraid. I'm like, what the hell? No one will work with me on anything, and here I am feeling afraid. So when they left, the stress and the fear and the craziness in my head because of the detox, I lost it. I became suicidal, which I'd been suicidal, but I really became suicidal. That's when I cut my hair off. That was the night that I cut my hair off. August 12th, I think. And I just took it, and, I was kind of partial to my hair, and a lot of other people were too. I had very beautiful long hair, and I just took it and I just chopped. And I was going to use that as fire starter. And I had slung a rope up into the tree at my favorite spot on the property where I could look out and see all over the place. And I was going to hang myself there because that's how bad I felt. That's how bad I hurt. Because I wasn't worth even caring about how scared I was. And how alone I felt, and how stuck I felt with no vehicle, and I couldn't leave, and I had to deal with this, and all I wanted to do was finish my garden and finish my marijuana plants. I had 6 plants in 4 holes. I was trying to pull a fast one, and I'll be honest about it. I put 2 plants in a hole, and the way that I was doing my plants is I was umbrella umbrella, I don't even know how to say that, making them look like an umbrella. I pulled all the stalks down, and so that the colas would grow up. And so anyway, you couldn't tell that there was 2 in a pot. And I did that for 2 pots, and then 2 pots had big plants in them. But that's all I wanted. I just wanted to garden and take care of the animals. Take care of the property. And finish the season and then move on. Because it was apparent that I wasn't going to let Walt keep using me. And he didn't want anything to do with someone who was trying really hard to get healthy and didn't want to put up with people being really, really abusive and demeaning towards me. So, it got really ugly that night. I sent texts. I was cutting. I've not had a problem with cutting. And I started cutting, and I was cutting up, and I cut on my face, his initials. I've got his initials cut in quite a few places, because in my brain, I don't ever want to forget who hurt me. That's what I was thinking. You hurt me, you hurt me, you hurt me, and you made me your whore. His initials are WL, Walt Lubinig. So I was the whore loser. That's what I felt like. After all this started coming unhinged, and I didn't have any support, I didn't have any financial stability, I didn't have stability to the place that I was supposed to be able to live forever as long as I own it. No, I was feeling very insecure. And I don't want to ever forget how shitty that felt, because he's not the first man who's used me that way, and I allowed it. But it's not going to happen again. And every time I look in the mirror and I see that WL, and I've got others to remind me. And that's my mental illness. That's coming off the benzos. I never have done this before, but now I'm glad those marks are there, because that was the worst thing that I could imagine happening at that point in my life. And the man that I had bent over backwards trying to help was poking with a sharp stick in my open, gaping wounds. That's what it felt like. So anyway, that night after I'd sent threatening photos showing me with a noose around my neck and cutting and all kinds of things that I'm sure were quite frightening, I was so afraid and so scared that I would not answer the phone or open the door or answer the door. I had everything in my trailer shut down, locked up tight. And people came to the door and I wasn't answering. I wasn't making a noise. And Shasta, she's not going to make a noise. And we just stayed in there. And one time Shasta was out. And then I heard that my dad was coming. And my father has never come to visit me at my home, called me even though I've asked, even when with my counselor present, I've asked, please call me once in a while. 7 years. And he comes because he thinks I'm dead. There's no fucking way he's going to see me. No one's going to see me. So I went off into the forest. Because that's what I do. I can trust the forest. I can trust the trees and the birds and the bears and the cougars. I know what their behaviors are. And they don't change them just because of me, or because they're narcissistic, or a sociopath, or self-centered, or borderline personality disorder, or whatever the hell. They don't change. They are what they are, and I can count on that. And so I'm comfortable to be in the forest. And when I was in that moment in my head, which was, this is not usual. This is not something that happens all the time. But I was psychotic. I had a psychotic break, and I did not even feel like I was in my body. I can tell you everything that happened, and I can tell you that I knew that some things that I did were wrong, but I couldn't stop myself. I was so incensed and so many emotions. So when I had been so afraid and was going to hang myself and all of that, and then there was all kinds of messages from my daughter and messages from Walt, but no one's giving me any kindness. It's all how bad of a person I am. And so I was just like, well, fuck you all. I'll show you how bad I am. And I started busting out windows in the house. No one was there, but I bust out, probably 1, 2, 3, 4 bedroom windows, a bathroom window, a front door window, and a kitchen window. And I had been drinking, which was wrong. That's not something you ever want to do when you're coming off medications. And it just was not a good deal. So anyway, I really lost it. And then the next day I hid in the forest, and the police finally came, and I had a hoe with me, a 3-pronged hoe, and I was using that as a walking stick because I was in a lot of pain, and the police viewed that as, I didn't know anyone was coming, but that's what I had, and I just grabbed it. It was right there as I walked out the door, and I was out in the forest for a number of hours, and I just made a bad timing of going down the hill, and there was the police. So, and they saw my dog, and then they saw me, and so anyway, it was a good thing because although they didn't do a very nice thing, because I had with me, I'd put in a red bag my grandmother's rings, 2 of them, and I had about $2,000 cash. And I was just going to, I was going to go to Chicago and confront Walt. That's what I was going to do, but I didn't know how I was going to do it. And so I was just off in the forest sitting and praying and crying and thinking and drinking water and enjoying being in the forest and feeling like I could breathe because I'd been stuck in the trailer for 4 days. And anyway, I went down the hill, and there was the police, and they hauled me to the hospital, and I was put on a hold, and I would not speak to anyone or drink anything or eat anything for 3 days. I was so pissed off at all that had happened and how I'd been treated after I felt that I'd really done right by everybody, and I was just really getting screwed over. And then about the 3rd day, the social worker who had met with me first when I went in, he looks at me and goes, I know you're really pissed off. You haven't talked to me in 3 days. I keep coming back, and you don't talk, and you don't do anything. You're not drinking, you're not eating, and it's not really good for your health, and we do want you to be healthy, and you're just really pissed off, and I get that. So why don't you tell me about it, and let's see what we can do. So I finally started talking to him and said, I really want help, but man, people have been treating me like crap and using me and abusing me, and I'm just trying to get healthier because I came off these meds and all this crap happened. And the people who love me are being so harsh and not helpful. And here I am in the hospital. And so anyway, I started talking, and I said, I want help. And he said, you don't need to be in a hold. And he took the hold off, and I ended up being there 12 days on my own accord, 9.5 of those. And they just meted me up. That's all they could do, was try to help me to sleep, because I never slept. And so they just tried med after med after med, and my brain's broken. My GABA receptors are broken. And nobody's looking at that or talking about that. But between the PTSD, which was severe by this time, and then the withdrawal, the protracted withdrawals from these benzodiazepines, I think that the opiates, it just was what it was, and it was there and it was gone, and I had a little bit, but it's been the benzodiazepines that it's just horrible. And so I stayed there for 12 days. And the whole time I was there was conversations with Walt, and there was conversations with Sarah, my daughter, and most of them were really uncomfortable, and people not being very nice and caring that I'm sick in the hospital. Yes, it's mental health, but you don't shame people, and you don't hold it over them and lord it over them when they're laying there on the sidewalk bleeding out, do ya? But that's what they were doing, because it's mental health. They were poking. It was, you did this, you did that, and I'm trying to say, I was sick. Good God, people. And I was being treated like crap from people who I was trying to bring together to make money, but everybody was just being shitty. And sorry, my thoughts on that haven't changed. Mary and Jim screwed me over. They lied and they manipulated. The Shaddocks screwed me over. Scruffy, Mr. Eric Scruffy Wallace, held a gun to my head. Yeah, they all screwed me over. But without them, they wouldn't have had their money this year. And they've made money. And that hurts. So anyway, I'm going to end with that, because the next bit is just where it just is so flippin' wild, you just won't believe it. But, you know, here I am in the hospital, sick. You know, you don't go to the hospital if you're well. And not a single person who says that they love me has called just to say, gosh, what can I do? I'm so sorry you're going through this. No. Everybody had to judge and be manipulative and be cruel. And the doctors in the hospital and the nurses, they all said, Debbie, you know what? You're going to get well. You're going to be okay. And you get out there and you share what happens to those that struggle with mental health conditions, and how society treats them and how their loved ones treat them. Because I haven't even begun to tell you how the police have treated me and abused me. And how a treatment center abused me. So there is more. This has just been a really crappy year. And it's been because I tried to help people. And I'm not in a position to help people. I just need to take care of myself. Because I don't have anything. Now I really don't have anything. They all made sure of that. But I didn't have much before either. But I was proud of what I had, and it was mine. Anyway, so that's part 4, and I'm at, like, let's see, today's the 28th, so I'm at 6.5 months, no opiates, and 4.5 months off of routine benzos. I did have some in the hospital, and I had a couple doses out of the hospital, but my routine ended on July 12th. I think the last dose I had probably was about 2 or 3 weeks after I got here, so middle of October. And I'm slowly but surely kind of getting things together. But I hurt. I hurt for how I've been treated and how I've been demeaned for being sick. And my social worker today, my case manager, she says, Debbie, you've got a story. When you're doing well, when you're not so upset that you're crying, and when you're able to articulate, you're so smart, and you have a story to tell to help other people. And I certainly hope so. I certainly hope I can get that well, because mentally ill people are abused and taken advantage of by people close to them. And if I can share my story and help someone so that doesn't happen, I'll share it forever. Or if I can help someone that's coming off benzodiazepines to come to the realization that it's not forever that you feel so crappy, then I'll share. And I do have a story to share. I have been struggling with medications and doctors for years on physical and mental issues, and their only way of dealing with things is pills, and they have not used any alternative ways, which I have found to be very beneficial for me. So that's an abuse too, and I want to see it stopped. I want to see doctors and nurses and big hospitals and nursing homes held accountable for giving patients these medications and not forewarning them or giving them alternatives. Shame on you. Shame on you. Anyway, I think this is part 4, so thanks for watching, and I'll come back and tell you the next crazy stuff that happened. Bye.